All right, welcome back everybody. My kids are back at school, which means that I am starting to enjoy some free time. And one of the things that I'm enjoying is testing out a new camera. Today we're going to talk about this new camera and how awesome it is, and the fact that it's actually not that new. It's new to me, but it has been in my family for about 65 years, 63 years, something like that. It's an old camera. Let's check it out. Do something different. So what I have here is a camera from a company called Walz. This camera has been in my family for about 60 years, I think. I believe it was my grandpa's camera. It was passed on to my dad years ago. I'm not sure how long he's had it, but I remember getting my picture taken with this camera when I was a kid. I was maybe 8 or 9, and the pictures still stick with me. I haven't seen them in years. I'm not sure where to find them, but I remember the process of getting this picture taken, how long it took, the effort my dad put into it. And so I've kind of had this in the back of my mind for years and never really thought anything of it. I always thought it was a camera that he borrowed. I didn't know that it was a camera that we owned. And then for the last 10 years or so, I've noticed this on his shelf. So let's have a look at this camera. Let's take off the leather casing. The leather is pretty fragile, so I'm probably just gonna leave it out of the leather and hide the leather somewhere safe. So here we go. So if you're not familiar with this camera, this is called a twin lens reflex camera. And what it has, it's got two lenses. One is a viewing lens and one is a taking lens. And what that means is, like a regular DSLR or SLR, which is single lens reflex camera, you would just look through a prism out the lens you're going to take a picture with. The shutter opens up and, blocks the prism and takes the picture through that lens. But this one, it's actually, you see through the lens that you're not taking a picture with, but you see through a lens that's used for framing. And then this lens down here is actually the lens that opens up and shines light onto the film. What happens is you open up this compartment here, and then you can just kind of look down and see. So you can pose in here, and then when you're ready to hit the shutter, this goes off. I'm going to take the rest of this leather off just to make it easy. So these slots come up, comes out of this leather, and it's a beautiful leather case, and you can see that it's been like repaired by hand. Someone's actually like done some stitching to like keep it together, but it's kind of fragile and falling apart, so I kind of want to just put it away. Take care of it, because I actually want to start using this camera and taking some pictures with it. So I currently have a roll in here of Portra 400, and I'm at picture 4 of 12, I think. So once I get through this, I'm gonna have a look at those photos and hopefully they worked out. I haven't sent this camera for repairs, and I'm not sure that I'm going to. One thing that I did do is the actual glass focusing screen in here was smashed to pieces when I got it. And so I ordered a new one, which I ordered it for $80. I'll put a link into the description for the person who did it. They did a great job. They answered all my questions about this because I didn't know what I was doing. The lens, or the piece of glass I got was a little bit short, but I think it's fine for what I'm doing, for what I need. I can order another one later if this one smashes, but so far it seems pretty solid. Let me get my notes. Let's see, notes. Okay, so these cameras were originally built in Japan. I think this one was built in about 1956. And it was from a company that was originally called Walzflex, and then changed their name to, or I think their name was Wago, and they've changed their name to Walz. So these Walzflex cameras were only made for about 10 years between 1950 and 1960. So this camera was built somewhere in there. Can't remember where I got the 1956 part from, but somewhere in my research that seemed to make sense. Who knows how long it's been in my family? I don't. I'm not a historian, photographer. So if you're familiar with these cameras, you'll know the camera Rolleiflex. That's the top end version of this camera. On a lower end in the Rolleiflex lineup is a Rolleicord, and that is actually more what this is in line with. It has a lot of the same features as a Rolleicord. It's very simple, very stripped down. It has some nice improvements because of what year it came out in. So on one hand, it's got a counter to see how many pictures you have left. The winder is really good because you can just push it in, advance it, and then it locks in when you know you've advanced enough, and that's a good spot for your next photo. I find the focus a little tricky to figure out. I'm still learning this. It has focus markings. I don't know how in focus this is, or if this is tuned properly at this point. The key thing to do with these cameras when you get them, if you know it hasn't been done in a long time, is a clean, lube, and repair. Basically what that is you send it to someone and they go through, they clean up all the mechanisms, make sure everything's tuned up, and repair anything that's broken, and then, you know, lubricate all the gears, make sure everything's running. Everything seems to work smoothly on this. I'm not sure that I'm gonna do the clean lens and repair because it is expensive, and I almost feel like if I'm gonna do that and spend that much money, I'm going to buy a Rolleiflex. So this is just kind of a test camera to see if I like this kind of photography and how willing I am to commit to it, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe if I fall in love with this camera and I want to like take it everywhere, I will do that. I am a little worried that, you know, this is a family heirloom, so everyone's a little precious about it. And I don't know that I want a camera that I need to be super precious about it, because I am already insanely precious about my cameras. So we'll see. So when taking these cameras, important thing to note, it's an old camera. It doesn't have a light meter. So you either need to bring a light meter with you, or you need to use systems like the Sunny 16 rule to figure out your exposure. But a light meter definitely helps if you're not familiar with that system, or you were looking to do something very specific. So over on this side, we have our focus wheel. It goes from about 1 meter is the closest focus to infinity, it claims. It does seem like it might be a little bit off. One really nice feature about this is that it shows you where your f-stop is and where your depth of field is, right? So you can tell that at 1 meter, you have a pretty small depth of field. And then if you're at 3.5, if you're at 8, you have pretty substantial, like 2 meters between everything. And then it just goes from there. And so it's a nice little, you know, visual reference to go by to like see what your depth of field is going to be, especially if you're not familiar with the camera. I don't know if you can see in there. So in there, that is the ground glass focusing screen, and that's the replacement one I got. The one that came with the camera was smashed up, and we only used it for reference to get this one rebuilt. So what you're seeing is the light goes through this lens here, bounces off a mirror, and goes up through that ground glass here. But that is not necessarily the same thing that is going through this lens here. It's a close approximation, but it is not exactly the same. but it's close. It's close enough to get a reference for what you're doing. So this piece is a magnifier to help you get your focus a little bit better. Another neat thing that it has is you can push that down, and then you've got this little hole here. It's called the sports finder. I think it's more if you're shooting things in deep focus and you're not really worried about focus, but you need to like focus on your framing fast. It's a good way to just set up the shot and do that. So these are fixed lens cameras. They come with a 3.5 f-stop is wide open and then closes down to 22. And so this is 120 film, so it's a medium format. It's 6x6. And so this is a lot different from 35mm, right? So I'm used to shooting 35mm. I'm not used to shooting medium format. So I'm not entirely sure what the difference between a 3.5 on medium format is versus 3.5 on full frame. So, all right, so the aperture on this opens up to 3.5. Shutter speed, top shutter speed on this is a whopping 200. But it opens up to a bulb mode, which is really awesome, especially if you have a shutter release. So you just load the film back here. I've got film in here, so I'm not going to open it up. But you load your film in here. You need one spool in there, and then you put your roll in, feed it up to that spool, close this down, wind this up, and it'll lock in place, which is really great. Yeah, that's about it. It's fairly simple. So I'm gonna go out and take some shots and get these developed at some point, and then we'll show you those. Anyways, if this video has been helpful, give it a thumbs up. And if you know anything about this camera and want to let me know things about it, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer it. I am not an expert in this camera, but I'm getting used to it at best. So yeah, anyways, I'll talk to you later. This little piece here isn't really on very well. I need to get that, I need to fix that or something.